In this video, we're answering the question, what are orphan drugs? What if I invest into companies that develop orphan drugs? Am I taking any particular risks? Why are they called orphan drugs? And how do the regulations governing orphan drugs compare and differ between Europe and the US? Join me in this HealthWealth Orphan Drug Investor Toolkit video to find out. Although I have a PhD in biomedical engineering and over 15 years of working experience in the healthcare industry, I do not intend to give you investment advice. Please do your own research before making any investments. You are watching Health Wealth. If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're not, nice to have you back. So let's first address, where does the name orphan drug actually come from? Worldwide, we know there exist about 6,000 to 8,000 so-called rare diseases. And because rare diseases, by definition, impact few number of patients, there is relatively little financial reward in order to develop and bring to market a medication or drugs that address rare diseases. Of course, there is no doubt that patients who suffer from a rare disease have the same rights to receive a treatment that is safe and efficacious as any other patients for diseases that affect a large number of patients have. The development costs for any new medical treatments, including drugs, is independent of the addressable market. Therefore, it's easy to understand that healthcare companies rather favor developing medications for large addressable markets instead of risking about the same development costs and then have treatment that affects only a small number of patients in the end. And due to a lack of economic incentives, rare diseases are at risk of being, so to speak, abandoned and not addressed by the healthcare industry. And in order to bridge this gap between what is morally right and the economics, orphan drug designations have been developed in legislations around the world in order to facilitate and incentivize that healthcare companies are investing, in fact, also in treatments that impact and address rare diseases. And these are the so-called orphan drugs. So let's dive in and see how the FDA in the US is defining orphan drug and what requirements must be met. In the US, the legislation governing orphan drugs goes back to 1983 when the so-called Orphan Drug Act was established. And the act defines a rare disease as a disease or condition that is affecting less than 200,000 people in the United States. Additionally, the orphan drug designation may also be given to a condition impacting more than 200,000 people in the US if the following conditions are met. If it can be reasonably expected that the cost of development and bringing to market a treatment for a group of patients even more than 200,000 cannot recuperate those costs from the economics and the sale of the drug in the US, then orphan drug status may also be granted to such a treatment. So, by definition, an orphan drug is a drug for a rare disease or condition. And not surprisingly, and as alluded to in the introduction, the Orphan Drug Act is incentivizing the development of drugs, biologics, as well as devices to treat rare diseases. And these activities are overseen by the Office of Orphan Products Development. And one of those incentives is a 7-year market exclusivity for approved or authorized orphan products in the US. And another incentive is the waiver of the prescription drug fee, which currently stands at approximately $3 million for a new drug. And then finally, there are tax benefits, such as a 25% federal tax credit for the expenses incurred in conducting the clinical research that is necessary to bring any new treatments to market in the United States. So now let's cross the Atlantic and see what orphan drug status means for the European Medicines Agency, EMA. And these are the requirements to meet orphan drug designation in Europe. The treatment or medicine must be for the treatment, the prevention or the diagnosis of a disease that is life-threatening or chronically debilitating. The EMA set a threshold for the prevalence of the disease of 5 patients in a population of 10,000. But there's also the stipulation that if the development costs are unlikely to be recuperated through the sale of the medication, also the orphan drug designation may be granted. Developers of orphan drugs in Europe are protected because once the orphan drug designation is awarded, no other methods for the diagnosis, prevention, or the treatment of the same conditions can be authorized in the European Union, unless a new applicant can demonstrate significant benefit in the treatment of the disease. And so how is significant benefit defined? EMA define significant benefit in the following way. Significant benefit means that a medicine produces a clinically relevant advantage or makes a major contribution to the patient's care compared with existing methods to treat the condition. And thus, the orphan designation is given to a product that will improve the patient's current treatment, having considered what else is available. Once a designated orphan drug receives the marketing authorization in the EU, the manufacturer of this product is granted 10 years of market exclusivity. Additional advantages include reduced regulatory fees, scientific advice, and also protocol assistance at a reduced fee rate in order to develop clinical protocols, and finally, access to research grants. So let's now take a quick look of how orphan drugs market exclusivity might be lost. I believe that this, of course, is a very crucial question to ask before making an investment into any companies that may offer an orphan drug to bring to market. Under the rules of the US FDA, the 7-year market exclusivity may only be broken if another competitor has a similar product for the same indication that shows clinical superiority. And this viewpoint and approach of course makes sense because it maintains the interest in research and development to find better treatments, and of course is ethically right because patients, even for rare diseases, deserve nothing but the best treatments. In the European Union, the 10-year market exclusivity granted to an orphan product can be lost if the supplier, the marketing authorization holder of said product, cannot supply the market with sufficient quantities, or a second product comes to market where it is demonstrated that it is also clinically superior to the original orphan drug. I hope this video has prepared you to navigate the complicated world of orphan drugs and allows you to make smart investment decisions. If I have successfully managed to accomplish these goals, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Join me in the next video to learn how orphan drugs get approved through the regulatory pathways.